welcome to another ASMR and gaming session. Today we're playing Norco, an intriguing adventure game with many retro vibes, set in a dystopian Louisiana. But first, I'd like to thank you for tuning in, and I invite you to support my channel by leaving a like or a comment, or even subscribing if you enjoy this content. Now sit back, relax, and let's start the game. We're in Norco, Louisiana, not too far away from New Orleans. The landscape is dominated by the refinery towers of Shield Oil, a super corporation that is extracting oil in the area. The towers stretched high into the sky, their metallic surfaces gleaming under the scorching sun. The constant clanging and grinding of the machinery echoed across the town, making it difficult for Kay, our protagonist, to get a good night's sleep. The sight of those towers looming over the town was suffocating. They seemed to block out the sky and cast a shadow over everything below. The air was so thick with the acrid smell of oil and chemicals, Kay couldn't wait to escape this industrial wasteland and breathe fresh, clean air again. One day she hopped on a trainer to Chicago and eventually made her way to the West Coast. For a while she wandered the suburbs like a vagrant. She stayed in contact with her younger brother Blake through her cell phone and learned of their mother's declining health. Meanwhile, a war was raging. Kay decided to head east towards the Rio Grande, where she threw her phone in the river and joined the armies of the Mesa. For months, she was in the company of fugitives, sleeping in nuclear tunnels and repairing engines and weaponry. She was constantly on the run from the soldiers, but managed to evade them. At some point, she found a landline in a motel somewhere beyond Texas and called home. When her brother answered, she understood from his voice that their mother had passed away. Kay finally decided to go back home. We're in Kay's childhood bedroom back in Norco. She's trying to get her bearings and remember places, faces, and names from her past. Memories of her travels with friends across the Rockies come to mind, before they eventually split up. She recalls traveling on freight trains across the flat Midwest for miles. The rhythmic clack of the train wheels on the tracks reverberating through her bones, the warm sun beating down on her skin, and the smell of diesel fuel in the air. Then she rode on the back of a van from Chicago to Des Moines, then to Kansas City and Denver, the wind whipping through her hair, the bumps and the jostles of the road. Finally, she arrived in California just in time for summer. The salty tang of the ocean on her tongue, the feel of warm sand between her toes, and the sight of palm trees swaying in the breeze. Then, all of a sudden, she remembered the smile of an old man in the Central Valley ditch, the sour smell of stagnant water, and the buzzing of flies in the air, the gritty texture of the dirt beneath her feet, and the intense gaze of the old man staring at her with a hint of a smile. That smile was carved in her memory like a haunting portrait, forever etched in her mind with an unsettling feeling. But now she was home because her mother died and her brother Blake needed her. Blake was younger, reckless, and got easily into trouble, and he was always out of money. He was terrified when Kay left, and now he was terrified that she could die. Kay was the only family he had left. Kay's mom died of cancer. From the liver, it spread all over her body. There was little the doctors could do. Now Kay was looking around the room. The laptop was turned on. Probably Blake used it recently. She woke it up and found a recent chat log. In it, Blake was talking about seeing a big glowing sphere in the sky by the canal near the swamp. This thing looked like it was made of glass and moved fast. Kay glanced over the conversation but dismissed it as unimportant. As Kay did when she was younger, she picked up the toy monkey and challenged it to a staring contest. An easy win for her. Now she could carry the monkey around, for reasons, I suppose. The living room was a bit messy, with letters from the Shield Oil Company on the tea table, warning of increased flaring from the refinery towers. That would not pose any health risk for the residents, of course. A basket of unfolded laundry was lying on the floor. Kay picked up the family photo album and browsed through it. She found pictures of her mom, of Blake, of her grandfather, of her father Blue, and also someone she could not recognize. As she moved through the house, every room felt like a still picture. Entering the kitchen, her gaze immediately fell upon some of her mom's painkillers on the shelf. The sight filled her with sadness, another reminder of her recent passing. The microwave was probably full of cockroaches, as always. That simple thought made her stomach turn. The attic wasn't much different either. It was full of boxes, but maybe not as many as Kay remembered. Probably her mom threw away some stuff. Kay then went outside to check the backyard. Her old motorcycle as well as her grandpa's truck were still there, along with Million. Million was a robot that Kay's mom found and brought back home one night. Kay and Blake were able to root it and get it running again. Since then, it's been with the family. It's been years now. The rust of its carapace was giving it away. Million was trying to fix the bike, but it needed a fuse from the local gas station store, something Kay could help with. The bike would be a good way to get around, while Million finished fixing the truck. During the conversation with Million, Kay learned that Blake was not home, and there was no clue where he might be. Also, it seemed that Catherine, Kay's mom, was doing some research for a client in Fat City before she died. Many people were calling the house lately, all interested in what Catherine was doing and possibly get their hands on the data she uncovered. It was all very strange. had no clue what she was working on or where the data might be. Kay thought that Blake might have had an idea though. After the conversation, Kay tried to piece together some more memories. She remembered that Million was a security android that guarded the perimeter of the aluminium refinery in Gramercy. One day it simply ran away for no reason, which was an odd behavior. Kay was now standing on the front side of the house. A small statue of the Virgin Mary caught her attention. Her grandfather bought it many years ago. The concrete was all weathered and the paint was flaking. Kay noticed that the face was particularly deteriorated. As she passed her fingers on its contours, it suddenly snapped off. To her surprise, the face revealed an odd assemblage of electronics carelessly soldered together, with what looked like a card reader at the center of it. How strange, Kay thought. Maybe there was more to her mom's life than met the eye. It was time to go to the gas station and buy the fuse for Million. To get there, Kay passed by a pad of private investigators on Apple Street. The door was closed though, and no one was around. For a brief moment, Kay wondered if she might have to use their services to find her brother. Anyway, she continued her walk to the discount store. As soon as Kay tried to enter the store though, a burly guy named Troy stopped her. He was an old acquaintance that she wished she had forgotten about. For all his rude attitude though, Troy gave Kay more than just a hint that her mom might have been onto something. He told her that he did some work for Catherine in the swamp, and he had witnessed some wild stuff out there. But that wasn't the reason why he stopped her. More simply, he had set up a one-man picket line, trying to stop everyone from entering the store, because it was replaced by an ATM machine. He wanted an apology from the company. That's a reasonable request, I think. Anyway, he gave Kay a choice. Bring him the pills that usually his brother sold, or fight him. Kay preferred not to humiliate poor Troy any further, so she decided to go find the pills. Now, where could they be? She remembered she saw some painkillers on the kitchen shelf. They must be it, she thought. So she went back home to pick them up. She then quickly rushed back to the gas station and gave them to Troy. He was satisfied, so he let her through. The store was well stocked with dog food, cigarettes, sweets, car spares. But Kay only needed a fuse, so she grabbed one, duly paid, and left. The AI managing the store was precise and efficient, but definitely less entertaining than Troy and his nonsense talk. Anyway, Kay went straight back home so that Million could repair the bike. Million seemed concerned that Blake was not home yet. Even given his usual behavior, being away for so long seemed odd. The android also mentioned that Blake had been spending quite a lot of time at Sarpy Paperback lately. So Kay immediately thought that would be their first destination as soon as the bike was fixed. During the short trip, Million added more details about Catherine's whereabouts before she died. Shield Oil has been expanding their operation, especially towards the lake and the swamp. Catherine thought that Shield abused their permits, so she went in the area to investigate. She could not find any evidence, but it seemed she found something else. What could it have been, though? That thought sent a shiver down Kay's spine. Neither Million nor Kay, and possibly not even Blake, had any idea what she might have found in the swamp. Outside the Sarpy Paperback, there were some kids and an odd-looking dog. It was a pit bull with piercing green eyes, not too friendly though. As Kay entered the bookstore, the sweet aroma of old books hit her senses, mixing with the soft scent of Erica's perfume. Erica was a childhood friend of Blake. She was surprised to see Kay, but knowing that her mom died, it was probably a matter of time before she came back, she thought. Erica admitted that she had been following Kay's adventures, reading her posts on the internet after she left town, but she stopped after a while. Not hard to imagine why, since Kay threw her phone into the Rio Grande at some point. Anyway, Kay asked Erica if she had seen her brother, and she confirmed she saw him the day before. He was headed towards the Floodgate Tavern. Maybe he just got wasted and the owner, Gus, let him slip it off behind the bar. Kay then decided to pet Erica's cat, Crouton. Erica advised her not to do it, but Kay was not known to take other people's advice, so she continued. She pet the cat so much that at some point it launched itself through the ceiling, probably reaching low orbit. In any case, now Kay could collect a nice phone case, if only she still had a phone. Time to go to the Floodgate Tavern. Actually, we're taking a break from Kay's story, and we're going back to several weeks ago when Catherine was still alive. We're going to follow her story now. We're at a neural versioning clinic, a place where you can download your memories onto a hard drive. Knowing she was dying, Catherine didn't really want her children to be completely alone, so she decided to save some parts of herself onto a hard drive. This is Catherine's session at the clinic, where she was trying to recollect some old and more recent memories. Some were about pine trees, the ones in the garden of her father's house that grew so big they broke the concrete. Her father was really annoyed by that. She felt suffocated in that house though, and she wanted to leave as soon as possible. That's why she married Blue, Kay's father, and moved out with him. Some years later, she told him that she never loved him. It was heartbreaking for Blue, but they never fully broke up. Kay was just born and Blue took care of her like a good father. Catherine and Blue, though, were rarely in the same room. Then one night there was an explosion at the Shell refinery. That's how he died. Kay was still a baby. Catherine then went on, recollecting how she met Million. The android came to her one night in a parking lot. Million knew Blue from the days at the aluminium refinery. With no hesitation, quite recklessly, Catherine took her home that night. Kay was already 12 by then. Catherine then remembered a sphere she saw at the lake a few weeks before, which followed her. Since then, she's been trying to understand what it was. She then moved on to the memories about an entity called Duck. Duck started speaking to her through the radio and told her to install an app through which she could earn money. This app gave Catherine tasks to complete in real life, and when she did it, she got paid in quack coins. Her current task was to go to the Curious Duck, wherever that was. Catherine shivered in the chilly night air, the cold seeping through her jacket as she stood outside the dimly lit clinic in a rundown part of town. The flickering street lights cast an eerie glow on the deserted street, adding to the sense of unease that permeated the area. She wrinkled her nose at the acrid scent of smoke and garbage that hung in the air, and hurried on her way to find the Curious Duck. As she walked, she couldn't help but notice the graffiti that covered the walls of the buildings around her. A colorful but ominous display that seemed to reflect the darkest side of the city. On her way, she came across an underpass where a makeshift puppet theater was set up. The show was not ready to start though. Catherine then reached the crowded French Quarter. A street food vendor was there, as well as a dodgy-looking Santa Claus, soliciting donations for who knows what. There was a group of tourists and 2 oogles too. Catherine was kind enough to lend her last dollar to the oogles that warned her about the dodgy Santa. Not only he was probably soliciting donations for bogus causes, but he was a rather aggressive person too. The food vendor was selling hot dogs, rather old ones though, so old that no one in his right mind would dare buy one, unless totally desperate, and then some. To her surprise, the Curious Duck was right there on her left. Unfortunately though, the door was locked. Catherine asked the hot dog vendor why it was closed. She learned that Rosie, the owner, wasn't letting anyone in unless they knew the secret knock. Luckily, the hot dog vendor knew what it was, but he wasn't too eager to let the secret out. Or rather, he could tell Catherine, but only if she managed to bring in some business. A fair request, I suppose, even though there was a real possibility she could end up being an accomplice in an attempted murder case. Anyway, where could Catherine find a person so desperate to buy those vintage hot dogs? She then remembered the guy she had a chat with under the overpass. That guy seemed very hungry, she thought. She went back to the overpass. Now the show was about to start. Catherine was curious, so she sat along with the crowd and watched the show. After it ended, she approached the guy standing on the side of the stage. She casually told him that there was an hot dog vendor not far from there. The guy ran away immediately to buy his hot dog. A few minutes later, Catherine went back to the French Quarter. The hot dog vendor was pleased for having sold an hot dog, and he showed her the secret knock. That turned out to be just a normal 3 times knock on the door. Well, whatever. Catherine entered the Curious Duck. The place was just a curio shop, full of supposedly esoteric gadgets, voodoo dolls, and other confusing merchandise. Basically a tourist trap. No one was there though. But as soon as Catherine tried to touch the crystal ball, Rosie appeared from below the counter and stopped her in the act. Rosie immediately understood that she was one of those super duck people that came in and touched everything with their greasy hands, especially the crystal ball. Rosie was part of this super duck circuit that allowed her to earn some money by letting her shop to serve as a rendezvous point of some sort. Preempting the arrival of another duck follower, she called up a guy named Dallas. That's the person now Catherine had to talk to. He was waiting outside. Catherine stepped out and met Dallas. He informed her that her task was complete, and the app should have now a new objective for her. She quickly took out her phone and checked. Indeed, a new task was available. She had to go to the Eagle Janitorial and Paper Supplies in Fat City to receive further instructions. Catherine then called a private ride, and along with Dallas they went to Fat City. The place was just an unassuming warehouse that sold restaurant supplies. A loading bay was open, so they stepped in. And there it was, an hideous creature that resembled a bird, with many heads and eyes. It called out to Catherine. It was waiting for her. So it ends Act 1 of this story. I hope you've enjoyed, and that this ASMR session was useful for you. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye.